Good morning. We'll call the Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection to order. We have a number of items on our agenda. Before we get started, we appreciate that everyone has followed our directions and submitted their testimony in written form. We will have you on the screen, as many of you know who have watched our hearings before. We're being live streamed on the legislature's Facebook page, and all of the testimony can be viewed online on the Capitol website, www.capitol.hawaii.gov. If for any reason we are disrupted, we will post, we would continue our hearing tomorrow if we go beyond the time that we have, because we have another hearing scheduled for Aloha Friday at 9:30 in conference room 229. We will ask you, because we have a number of testifiers, if you would be brief with your testimony. The recommendation is 2 minutes. You can stand on your testimony. You can be available. We hope to answer questions from members should they come up. And I think those are the basics of the things that I needed to tell you before we get started. I'm getting a nod from our Sergeant at Arms over there, so we'll proceed. Our first bill on this Thursday agenda, Tech Thursday agenda, we're calling it, is Senate Bill 1373, relating to wage garnishment, prohibits a creditor from initiating or continuing any action to garnish wages from a debtor during the period of an emergency proclamation and sometime thereafter. It prohibits a creditor from garnishing more than 10% of a debtor's wages for 1 year thereafter. I don't have my list of testifiers up, but I sort of have it, so we'll go down, and if I miss anybody, my staff can fix my computer when we get to the end of this measure. We have support from Debt Solutions. We have opposition from Hawaii Financial Services Association. Anybody here from that organization? From Hawaii Credit Union League in opposition? Did I hear somebody say they're?
Yes, Hawaii Financial Service Association, Marvin Dang.
Okay. Marvin, can you either get a little closer to your microphone? We're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, how is this, Senator?
Much better. Thank you, Marvin.
All right. If I may?
Yes, please proceed.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Marvin Dang, testifying on behalf of the Hawaii Financial Service Association in opposition to this wage garnishment bill. The testimony that you have before you outlines the basic reasons why we're opposed to this bill as drafted. It is overly broad and could hurt consumers. Let me focus in, senators, on some aspects of the testimony and also add certain other things in my limited time here. The bill is too broad because it is triggered by any emergency proclamation that the governor proclaims. And as I indicated, in every year of his administration, there's been at least one, if not more, emergency proclamations, and that doesn't even include the COVID one in 2020, which carries over to this year. If, let's say, this were more focused on the COVID pandemic proclamation, it would still be too broad because it considers debtors all in the same category, a one-size-fits-all situation, and that really does not apply, because even during, let's say, the COVID situation, not all debtors had reductions in their salary. Not all debtors had hardships. Individual situations need to be considered, similar to what this committee did for Senate Bill 563, the commercial tenant protection. Only certain commercial tenants in that particular bill were impacted, and there was a definition there, were covered by that particular bill. Similarly, if the committee decides to make any revisions to this bill and to consider the employees, the debtors who have a financial hardship, I'll be able to answer any specific questions as to how perhaps this could be structured by the committee. But in any event, we do oppose the bill. Thank you.
Next on Zoom, we have Stephanie Sakamoto, Hawaii Credit Union League, in opposition.
Good morning, Senator. Stephanie Sakamoto on behalf of the Hawaii Credit Union League will stand on our testimony in opposition. Thank you.
Okay. Those are the only two that I noticed on Zoom. Let me call the others to see if they've decided to join us. Hawaii Debt Solutions, LLC, in support. Hawaii State Bar Association in opposition. Encore Capital Group in opposition. Hawaii Bankers Association in opposition. Receivables Management Association International in opposition. PRA Group opposition. Heard some suggestions that might benefit this measure. Members, are there any questions of the two testifiers on Zoom? Hearing none, let's move forward to the next. Thank you, Stephanie and Marvin, for joining us. We'll go forward to Senate Bill. Well, maybe we will and maybe we won't. Senate Bill 1354, relating to intoxicating liquor, expands the definition of cooler beverage to include certain spirit-based beverages that contain 7% or less alcohol by volume. We have joining us on Zoom, DOTAX, Mr. Choi.
Good morning, Chair. Jacob Hurlitz, on behalf of the Department of Taxation, will stand on our written testimony offering comments. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Tax Foundation of Hawaii, Mr. Tom Yamachika. Zoom, Tom, are you there? Good morning.
Yes, Chair, good morning. Thank you very much. We will also stand on our written testimony. The apparent point of this measure is to take spirit beverages, and because the liquor tax is a tax based on alcohol, and it does not seem to make sense to tax them as distilled spirits. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We also have Mr. Tim Lyons, Anheuser-Busch. Tim,
Thank
you
you, Chair.
Share your thoughts, please?
Thank you, Chair. We are opposed to this bill because its effect is to drastically lower the excise tax on what we affectionately call booze coolers. This is juices and alcohol mixed together. You might know them as products like Mike's Hard Lemonade or Sex on the Beach or Bacardi rum products. What this bill is trying to tell you is that a cooler beverage is a cooler beverage, and we disagree. We think that beer is beer and wine is wine and booze is booze. It wasn't the state of Hawaii, but it is the federal government that came up with a tiered tax system which increases tax based on the percentage of alcohol. So what this bill does is lower the tax on these booze coolers by 86%, from $5.98 per wine gallon to 85 cents per wine gallon. And that's kind of confusing to us because, of course, as you're well aware, this committee passed out Bill 1232, which increases taxes, but this contemplates a singular liquor tax decrease. So we don't think it matters what the product is, a type of cooler or a mixed drink. What you're doing is still taking distilled liquor and mixing it. So if moderation and temperance are still the goals, it should continue to use that same classification. And lastly, we would point out that the bill would cause a deviation from federal law, which defines distilled spirits as, quote, all dilutions and mixtures thereof, end quote. Based on that, we cannot support the bill, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lyons. Members, I don't see anybody else on Zoom. Are there questions for any of our testifiers? Seeing none, thank you all for joining us. We will move on to the next item. This is Senate Bill. I'm having my own version of technical problems over here. It says it can't read the items that I'm pulling up. The next item is Senate Bill 1398 relating to age discrimination, prohibits businesses that sell age-restricted goods from requiring disclosure of a customer's date of birth if it is clear that the individual has attained the age required to make a purchase. We have testimony, and joining us on Zoom should be Tina Yamaki from the Retail Merchants of Hawaii. Tina?
Aloha and good morning. I'm Tina Yamaki with Retail Merchants of Hawaii, and we oppose this bill. You know, already a lot of retailers have certain age limits, whether it's 35 and older or 45, that they card people. But a lot of retailers also card everyone. And that's because what we're finding out is even if you're 98 years old and we don't card you, and we card the next person in line because maybe they look under 21, we start to get age discrimination, ethnic discrimination, gender discrimination, racial profiling, and then everybody wants to sue us because they think retailers have deep pockets. So we'd like to ask that you hold this bill. I think retailers are already doing these types of things already. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have testimony in opposition, but not on Zoom, from ABC Stores. Members, any questions for Ms. Yamaki? Senator Favela.
So exactly what you just said about having certain vendors card everybody. When they had the button, we check ID or whatever, under 21, so forth and so on. The reason why I think this bill is right on the dot is because not everybody carry ID. They carry a credit card either with a picture on it, or a lot of guys carry cash. They leave the ID in their car or in their purse, or they run into the store.
Senator, is there a question there?
Oh yeah, that's the question. The question I was asking is that she's saying that this thing is not married, but I'm just trying to explain to him why.
No, you need to ask her the question and not testify.
Yes, again. That's good. Thank you.
Okay. I think the question that he was asking is, for the people that may not be carrying IDs, is there another way for a retailer to be able to ascertain ID rather than just denying?
Thank you, Chair.
Well, part of it too is we don't want to be liable either. You know, a lot of people can use makeup and a whole bunch of other things. And, you know, when you see the ID, you know, it's that person who's purchasing the liquor and it is at that age. You can't go on, oh, that's my friend, or, you know, I can vouch for them. Retailers, you know, with all the liquor laws, we're getting, you know, cracking down. We don't want to sell to those who are under 21 years of age. And then again, you know, we're being ridiculous because, you know, we are carding that 98-year-old person. But then again, it has to do with liability, because then they turn around and they accuse us, you know, if you don't card everybody, well, how come you're carding them and not us? I understand the senator's question, but it's just to be fair to everybody. We card everybody.
Okay.
And I believe that's the law too, to card.
Okay, Senator Riviere.
Thank you. But doesn't this bill fix that problem? Because obviously the 98-year-old, he forgot his ID at home. I mean, and he can't buy something. It's silly. So doesn't this bill fix that problem? Because if you're 20, 25, 30, nobody, you know, there's no objection to you carding them, but the 100-year-old guy, it's silly.
Yeah, but then what you're doing is you're leaving it up to the cashier to do the guesswork and trying to guess what people's age are. And
Well,
if they guess
100,
wrong, yeah. And then
if
and
they're
then
30, card them, 40, card them, but 100,
yeah.
it's silly.
But then the question becomes, when is the cutoff, and who's going to be liable if we make a wrong guess and decide that that person really isn't that age because of the way they dress or the makeup that they're wearing? They look a lot older than what they really are.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, all right. That brings us to the end of people testifying on Senate Bill 1398. Let's go forward to 1388. This is relating to the Landlord Tenant Code, extends the period for notice of summary possession from 5 days to 15 days, requires landlords to enter into mediation, and delays when a landlord may seek possession of a dwelling unit if the tenant schedules or attempts to schedule mediation, requires landlords to provide notice to mediation centers that offer free mediation for residential landlord tenant disputes, restricts when a landlord may exercise these remedies depending on the amount of rent due, and repeals on 6/1/2022. Our first testifier on Zoom is from the DCCA Office of Consumer Protection, Mr. Levins. Good morning.
Good morning. Steve Levins, Executive Director of the Office of Consumer Protection. We're in support of this bill and stand on written testimony.
Okay, thank you. Hawai'i Association of Realtors, testimony and support. We have Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice in support. We have Attorney David Chi on the Zoom call, I believe. Mr. Chi, are you there? He submitted testimony in support, and we have late testimony in support from Legal Aid. Members, any questions for Mr. Levins, who is our only live person on the call? If not, thank you, Steve, for joining us. Members, let's move forward to Senate Bill 552. This measure is relating to nuisance abatement. Authorizes citizens to bring a nuisance abatement suit under Chapter 712 HRS to enjoin and abate nuisances related to environmental hazards, including tobacco smoke that drifts into any residential unit a person rents, leases, or owns from another residential or commercial unit. Joining us on Zoom is the Health Resources Administration Department of Health branch. And I see Lila, I'm sorry. I'm blanking out. Lola. One of those short names. Good morning, Lola. Would you please share your thoughts on behalf of the department with us?
Thank you. Yes, we have a requirement that our names must start with L. So I'm Lola Irvin. I'm representing Dr. Libby Char, Director of Department of Health. So thank you. The Department of Health supports SB 552. And this is because we know that Hawaii has a higher proportion of people who live in multi-unit housing residences. And with the COVID-19 pandemic and people working from home and staying at home and teaching their children from home, we have actually received an increase in calls. So where before 50% of complaints about that we receive in the Department of Health about tobacco smoke in homes, it rose to 75% of the proportion of calls that we receive. And so we know that there is no healthy amount of secondhand smoke, especially for children who are learning at home and people working from home. And so we do support this so that there would be some recourse for residents who do call and complain about secondhand smoke, that they don't have we're unable to guide them other than just some things that they might do to close their windows and all that, which would be hard at a time like this. So thank you so much for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you, Lola.
Thank you.
Let's see, we have a testimony from the Attorney General. In opposition, Is the Attorney General there? Anybody representing the Office of the AG? Okay, members, we have their testimony. We have joining us on Zoom is Sonia Gupta, Maui Dental Group. Sonia? I don't see Sonia there. We have Jaylee Murakaki, Hawaii Public Health Institute.
Aloha, Chair Baker, Vice Chair Chang, and members of the committee. My name is Jalen Murakami. I'm with the Coalition for Tobacco-Free Hawaii, a program of the Hawaii Public Health Institute. Mahalo for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of SB 552. I know you have your written testimony, but just wanted to emphasize a few points. So like the Department of Health, we've also noticed an uptick in complaints about secondhand smoke drifting into the home during this pandemic. And we find this especially troubling since it can exacerbate or even cause some of the underlying medical conditions that are known to increase the risk of severe cases of COVID-19. Hawaii's strong smoke-free air laws protect people from secondhand smoke in public places, but unfortunately, these protections do not extend into the home, and there's little recourse for these people if the smoker doesn't stop voluntarily. We believe that everyone has a right to clean air, and as such, the coalition supports all efforts that will protect people from secondhand smoke in their homes. Mahalo for the opportunity to provide testimony and support.
Thank you very much. We also have testimony and support from the Hawaii Disability Rights Center, from Lynn Matasau, from Adeline Porter, Aurora Saulo, B.A. McClintock, Ruben Guerrero, Christine Oman, John Kaneko, Patrick Norman. Members, any questions for the Department of Health or Hi-Fi? Oh, Department of Health. Okay, Senator San Buenaventura.
Hi, Lola. This is so my question is, I'm looking at page 2, and because there's no AG available, do you have? It seems to me all of the testimony is against secondhand smoke. Do you have any problems limiting this bill to the secondhand smoke? Because it seems to me it's going to be unenforceable, as vague and ambiguous. I mean, I know it goes to JDC later on, but when you add in indecent, offensive to the senses, and not just injurious to health, yeah?
Thank
Do
you.
you have any problems removing those phrases in order to make this enforceable?
This is not their bill.
Oh, it's not your bill?
No, the Senator Ihara's bill. So they didn't draft it.
Okay, but yeah, well, you guys are on, they're the only ones on.
I know.
Do you have any problems removing those?
And thank you, Representative, for the question. And those are really great legal points. And as also Chair mentioned, this is not our bill. And in terms of the legal structure of the bill, we will have to defer to the Attorney General's office, and we had coordinated earlier with them. And so we will go back and work with them on any amendments that are requested.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a follow-up, either Lola or Hi-Fi, do you have any recommendations for amendments for this bill? Because it is very problematic, just with all of the vagueness of what these items are. Can you assist the committee in maybe making some amendments for this measure?
Chair, thank you so much for the opportunity to make and to offer amendments. May we get back to you within the day if we can work with the Attorney General's office to provide some language that would be useful?
Yes, that would be very helpful. We can defer this to a later time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for our testifiers? If not, members, shall we move forward to Senate Bill 925? This is relating to secondhand dealers. Clarifies that the secondhand dealers law applies to secondhand dealers' operation of an automated recycling kiosk. I don't know that I've ever seen one of those. Joining us on Zoom should be a representative from HPD. Paul Okamoto.
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. My name is Paul Okamoto. I'm a captain with the Honolulu Police Department's Criminal Investigation Division. We respectfully oppose this bill for the following reasons. Firstly, the amendment does not clearly specify which articles will be recycled. The passages of this bill will not stop entities from recycling laptop computers, iPad-type devices, jewelry, and other items containing precious metals, even catalytic converters. These articles are common targets of burglaries and theft from vehicles. Essentially, this amendment will potentially make it easier to immediately sell many different kinds of ill-gotten goods. Secondly, the amendment seeks an exemption from an important holding period of the item purchased by the secondhand dealers of 15 to 30 days. The ability for the Honolulu Police Department to be able to immediately inspect items already identified as stolen for additional evidence, and the ability to have direct visual and tactile inspection of items that may be potentially stolen, but not yet identified, will be lost if the items are immediately removed from the county and state. Oftentimes, holding the items physically in our hands and seeing them with our own eyes are the only way people can identify their stolen items. The mandatory holding period in the county is an essential tool in recovering stolen items and cannot be supplanted by any current technology. Lastly, although this amendment is supported by entities that may tout impressive technologies, good intentions, and the ability and will to cooperate with law enforcement, the bill does not prevent in the future other illegitimate companies that may compete in this space and who may not be as well intentioned. For those reasons, the HPD respectfully opposes this bill. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. The Maui Police Department sent in supportive testimony. We have Tina Yamaki from Retail Merchants of Hawaii joining us on Zoom. Tina, are you there? Okay. We have Cameron Dimitri Technic supposedly joining us on Zoom. I don't see anybody there. Bonnie Garcia, Echo ATM. Bonnie, is that you?
That's me. Good morning, Honorable Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Bonnie Garcia, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for Eco ATM, Gazelle. You may know our sister companies that already operate in the state of Hawaii, and that is Coinbox and Redbox. Coinstar and Redbox. Eco ATM is a high-tech company that operates automated recycling kiosks. We buy used and broken cell phones directly from consumers inside stores, meaning we partner with major retailers and grocers so that consumers have a safe place where to recycle. Included in our testimony is the fact that we already operate in 49 states and Europe. We operate 4,200 plus kiosks, and we work with more than 1,500 different police agencies and sheriff's departments. The concerns raised by the Honolulu Police Department are valid, and we have addressed those. Specifically in our amendment, we want to narrow the definition, and we're recommending committee amendments to narrow the definition to only apply to automated recycling kiosks that purchase used consumer handheld electronic devices. We report all of our sales via an electronic platform, and we want to clarify that those reports are sent to law enforcement within 24 hours. So we're asking that that also be an amendment. Current law, HRS 486M5, allows for inspection of items only if they're suspected of being stolen. And because we provide information to law enforcement within 24 hours on a sales report that includes a photo of the ID, 3 color photographs of the seller, the thumbprint if required in that state, the location of the device, where it was sold, and a color photograph of the item front and back, law enforcement has all the information that they already need to do their investigation. Current law also, HRS 486M, allows for a minimum retention period of 15 days. And what we're proposing is doubling that. Even though we report electronically and the current law would allow us to only hold for 15 days, we are doubling that hold period to 30 days. So in the event that any items becomes necessary for a police investigation, it allows for proper time to be returned to that agency. And by the way, we have purchased more than 28 million devices nationally, equivalent to 7 million pounds of electronic waste diverted from landfills, all at no cost to government. And of those 28 million items purchased, less than 0.5% of anything we ever purchase has ever been returned for any reason. EcoATM operates in the largest cities across the United States, including New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Miami, Milwaukee, Houston, and Los Angeles. And we welcome the opportunity to be regulated in the state of Hawaii and to finally say that we operate in all 50 states, because Hawaii is the only state where we currently don't operate. Thank you so much for your attention, and I am here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bonnie. Members, any questions? Yes, Senator Fazella.
So you're saying that you guys do not receive cannabis converters, anti-canna items in your guys' kiosks?
No, sir, we only purchase consumer electronics such as cell phones. And although carriers take back cell phones when you are signing a new contract and provide you a rebate, for example, on that phone, they do not take back your old and broken iPhone 4 or 5. There is no value or market for those. About 65% of what we purchase is recycled for parts or refurbished and reused. We, the consumers, have created this electronic waste problem with greater than 5 billion people with cell phones today. Most of us are turning them over every 18 to 24 months. So this is one way to encourage reuse and recycle and have less of an impact on the planet.
Sure, can I ask HPD one question?
Certainly. Is HPD still on the line? On the call? HPD, Captain?
Hi, I'm here.
Yes.
Hi, good morning. After hearing the testifier testify, and knowing what she and her automated kiosk is doing, do you think that is something that you guys can support going forward?
I'm sorry, I had a trouble understanding your question. Could you restate that again, please?
I said, knowing that what the testifier had said with her automatic kiosk, and she's not taking any automotive cannabis converters and storing car parts to her kiosk, would you guys think that you guys will be able to support it?
Oh, I think what I'm hearing you saying is if we just limit it to cell phones, will we support the bill? The answer to that is no. I think the main problem is the retention of the items. Currently, all secondhand dealers are required to hold the items in the county for 15 to 30 days. And I think what's being proposed here is that these items will be removed from the county and held at another location. And we have issues with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me, members, ask a follow-up question of the representative from EcoATM. If the kiosks were put in Honolulu, city and county of Honolulu, or in someplace on Maui, the county of Maui, someplace in Kauai, the county of Kauai, or someplace on Hawaii Island, the county of Hawaii, would you be retaining those items put in the kiosks there in that county rather than shipping them to someplace central where they might not be easily retrieved?
So let me answer that question on how we operate nationally, which would be the same as we would operate in Hawaii. Regardless of the location anywhere in the US, items are removed from that kiosk about once a week. Every item that is sold is identified by a QR code that is attached to the phone at the point of sale. When the machine is emptied, an armored car company empties the devices, scans them in so that we have a chain of custody from the time that the item was sold until it's received at our centralized processing facility in Louisville, Kentucky, which is like Fort Knox. You know, at any given time, there may be 500,000 devices stored there. The reason why we can't keep the devices inside the kiosk is they become an attractive nuisance. The kiosk is about the same size as a red box machine. So if they continue to accumulate inside the machine, it will shut the machine off at some point because there's not adequate storage. The second problem is it creates a safety risk for the employee that's coming to empty the kiosk because they would have to manually sort through the phones to see how long they've aged inside that machine. And then the real problem becomes if we are in Honolulu or Maui, for example, we would have to create a separate storage facility for each county, and we would have to age them accordingly. Under current law, HRS 486M, the law currently allows that if you're using computerized record keeping and electronic transmittal, your hold time could be 15 days. What we're proposing is 30 days, which is our universal standard. So even if an agency had an interest in that device, even before they requested it, our electronic report would have already been sent to that police department that includes 3 color photographs of the seller, location and time of the store where it was sold, a color photograph of the item front and back, and that device would have also been electronically scanned to upload the serial number or the IMEI of that device. So the only thing that the police department would not have is the physical item. The other issue is that if an item was stolen, for example, and made its way to our kiosk could be remotely open. So at any time before that item was emptied from the kiosk, the police department could request that the kiosk be remotely open. And then finally, manufacturers have changed how phones are manufactured. We have the Find My iPhone feature, for example, which would track that phone to an immediate location. So if it was still on the island and located within our kiosk, it would be beeping inside the kiosk and could be retrieved at that point. So we have a challenge with creating 5 separate holding facilities and separate hold times if we were to operate in Hawaii, and that's why we don't operate there today.
Okay. Members, any other questions for this on this measure? Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting measure. Let's go on to the last item on our agenda. Oh, okay, there's 2 more. Oh, my apologies. We have on Zoom Jonathan Spiker for Hawaii Pawnbrokers Association.
Hi, good morning, Chair Baker, Vice Chair Chang, and committee members. I'll be brief. My name is Jonathan Spiker. I'm the attorney for the Hawaii Pawnbrokers Association. And on behalf of the Hawaii Pawnbrokers Association, we respectfully oppose this bill and ask that you do not pass it for the following reasons. Automated recycling kiosks are a completely different type of business and completely different type of industry compared to pawnbrokers and secondhand dealers. Pawnbrokers and secondhand dealers are already heavily regulated under HRS Chapter 486M. Adding automated recycling kiosks to Chapter 486M, which is an entirely different industry, would be very confusing and would distort the existing pawnbroker and secondhand dealer laws. Passing this bill would mean that different industries with different requirements would be governed by the same statute. Furthermore, recycling in Hawaii is already governed by other statutes such as HRS Chapter 339, Chapter 342I, Chapter 342G, and HRS Chapter 445-231. We spent several days researching this, and personally, we are not aware of any automated recycling kiosks in Hawaii. We spent hours researching this and were unable to find any examples or locations of automated recycling kiosks in Hawaii.
That's because there aren't any yet.
Okay. Thank you. And as I close up, also to note that the Honolulu Police Department opposes this bill, as do we. And last, many of those who support this bill, they actually stand to benefit and gain financially if this bill is passed, because they can now sell their products or the kiosk in Hawaii. So I think that's very important to keep in mind. So for the foregoing reasons, we respectfully ask that you do not pass this bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Richard Dan come on alone. Mr. Dan? Unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Aloha, my name is Richard Dan. Thank you folks for hearing this measure, and thank you for giving me the time to speak to you. My testimony and my reasons for not wanting this, my reasons for opposition are in front of you. But I've listened to everything that's been said, and I wanted to make some comments about what was said. The first thing is the testifier for the kiosks was saying that it's a 15-day hold in Honolulu. That's a 15-day hold at the option of the chief of police if they record electronically. Number two, I buy cell phones, I buy iPads in my secondhand dealer operation, and now we're bringing in a mainland company who is a less restrictive situation than I have. Why are you making it easier for mainland interlopers to make it harder on mom and pop shops that buy a few cell phones or iPads here and there? And we cooperate with the holding periods, we cooperate with the police departments. And if there's a scratch on the back of the cell phone that the person who was robbed of their cell phone while they were at the beach isn't picked up by the camera picture that they take, because the quality of these pictures isn't that great. As the Honolulu Police Department said, they want to be able to touch it, grab it. And the person said, oh yeah, I had a scratch in the bottom right corner of my the back of my cell phone. That picture isn't going to pick that up, but the policeman will be able to see that. That's why we have a holding period in this state, because this is how we protect victims of crime. By end running this holding period, it's no good. The Honolulu Police Department said it, and I agree with Honolulu Police Department. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Dan. Members, any questions on this measure for any of our testifiers? If not, shall we move forward? Yes. Okay. The next item, we thank all of our testifiers. The next item is Senate Bill 1386 relating to Public Utilities Commission. Requires the chairperson of the Public Utilities Commission to appoint an administrative assistant, a research assistant, and legal counsel to assist each member of the Public Utilities Commission with commission duties. Prohibits the chairperson from dismissing or reassigning appointed staff members without the prior written approval of the affected commissioner. We have testimony, and I believe the chair of the commission, Mr. Jay Griffith, is on Zoom. Good morning, Jay. Would you please share your testimony with us?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Baker, Vice Chair Chang, and members of the committee. You have our written comments. I just want to highlight a few key points how we think this would affect our operations if it passes as is and there are no additional positions as a part of it. The three commissioners currently share an assistant. I think that arrangement has worked well, sufficient capacity. So if we have to appoint two more assistants, we'd have to look at repurposing, reallocating from either vacancies that we have that are under recruitment, or we have a couple positions that we're asking to redescribe. And so when I look at our list of those, that would come from either we're asking to redescribe an investigator position, we're recruiting for an auditor, and we're recruiting for a new attorney. And so instead of getting one of those new positions on staff, we would have to convert those for assistants. So we don't think that is beneficial to the capacity of the commission to process our workload. As for the other two positions, a research assistant, a legal assistant, our commissioners have access to all of our staff without any restrictions or conditions on that. And so we believe that's for a commission of our size, that's the most efficient setup. So I wanted to highlight those. Those are the how we see the impact on the operations to the commission, and available for any further questions from the committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jay. We also have joining us on Zoom, Dean Nishida, DCCA Division of Consumer Advocacy.
Aloha and good morning, Chair Baker, Vice Chair Chang, and members of the committee. Dean Nishida with the Division of Consumer Advocacy. You have our written testimony and we stand on that, but available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay. And our final testifier seems to be Life of the Land. Anybody joining us representing Life of the Land? Members, any questions for either Jay Griffin or Dean Nishida? If not, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Let's take a quick recess and we'll do some decision making, hopefully. Recess. Reconvening the committee for purposes of decision making. On the first item on our agenda is Senate Bill 1373. This measure has to do with wage garnishment. Recommendation is that we pass it with amendments, taking the recommended amendments from Receivables Management Association International and determine that the end of the pandemic is when the governor's emergency proclamations are rescinded. Limit the measure to individuals who demonstrate financial impact from the pandemic during the act 6 months after the emergency proclamation rescinded, or at least by June 30, 2022. So there's a time frame. And we are going to also defect the date and request that the next committee give it their full attention, see if there's a value in this measure or not. Okay, we're defecting the date. Any questions, comments? If not, Senator Nishihara, will you take the vote for us? Recommendation is to pass Senate Bill 1373 with amendments.
Okay.
Chair votes aye.
Okay. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Nishihara votes aye. Senator Rivera.
Aye.
Senator Sembuente Ventura.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Motion's adopted.
Thank you. Senate Bill 1354 relating to intoxicating liquor expands the cooler beverage. There was a lot of concern about this, and if it lowers the retail or lowers the tax that the state receives, this is probably not a good time for this measure. So the chair recommends we defer this one indefinitely. Any concerns or comments, members? If not, Senate Bill 1398 relating to age discrimination prohibits businesses that sell age-restricted goods from requiring disclosure of a customer's date of birth if it is clear that the individual has attained the age required to make a purchase. This just certainly goes in the face of all of us women who try to look younger than we are. Chair recommends that we pass this measure with amendments. We'll take SMA's recommendations, including no business that sells age-restricted goods shall require a customer to verbally verify or disclose a customer's age. Chair believes that businesses should be able to ask for an ID to verify age, even if the age of someone over the age restricted is not apparent. I'm always flattered if somebody asks me for an ID. They haven't done that in years, but oh well. Any question? This measure also goes on to the Committee on Judiciary. Any questions or concerns with the recommendations? If not, chair votes, pass with amendments, chair votes aye.
Senator Chang,
Aye.
Senator Mr. Lucha,
Aye.
Senator DeShar goes aye, Senator Revere,
Aye.
Senator San Ventura,
Aye.
Senator Favela,
Aye.
motion is adopted.
Thank you. On Senate Bill 1388, there seems to be a number of issues with this. It will go on to JDC, but Chair would like to defer it till Friday, the 12th at 9:30 in Conference Room 229 to see if we might be able to send them something that's a little bit more useful. So we're going to defer that one till the 12th. The next item is Senate Bill 552 relating to nuisance abatement. This has to do with bringing a suit, and it had a whole bunch of environmental hazards that were quite vague. And based on the AG's testimony, the chair recommends we defer this one indefinitely. Any concerns, members? If not, Senate Bill 925 relating to secondhand dealers clarifies that the secondhand dealers law applies to secondhand operations from an automated recycling kiosk. Chair recommends that we move this forward with the amendments provided by EcoATM, as well as a defective date of 7/1/2050, and ask JDC, which is the next committee, to scrutinize it carefully. Any questions or comments? If not, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye.
Senator Chang,
Aye.
Senator Mr. Lucha,
Aye.
DeShar goes with reservation. Senator Revere,
Aye.
Senator San Ventura,
Aye.
Senator Favela,
Aye.
motion is adopted.
Thank you. Senate Bill 1386 is next on our agenda. This is relating to the Public Utilities Commission. Chair recommends we defer this measure indefinitely. I really, after listening to the PUC and being familiar with their hiring practices and administrative procedures, I think this is not needed. So that is the end of our agenda. Thank you, members, for being present, for participating, and I think we will see you again tomorrow. For now, we are adjourned.